All right, gang. So this review comes at the insistent request of my son, Chris Mack Jr. Every time I come down to the studio, he'd say, "Dad, don't forget the Batman Batwoman book." So we sat down and read it together, and I actually had a lot of fun. So prefacing that, if you have young kids that you want to introduce to the mythos and then just enjoy a nice, relatively safe book for kids, I'd say probably about 5 and older, this is definitely up your alley. So I believe this is volume 3 of Batman Scooby Doo Mysteries. This is a reprint that you could pick up at Circle K or wherever. But one thing I hate about these reprints is they put it as number 1. It is not number 1. I had to do some digging. So I believe it's volume 3, issue number 5 is the real numbering on it. So I'll try to remember to do that down in the description. But yeah, that number 1 completely threw me off. But I love this cover. Even though we can kind of see clearly who the bad guy is here, immediately through my old man eyes, all I could think is biker mice from Mars. And then of course we get Kane and the mystery gang. So let's dive into this book. Now, they don't specify if they're particularly in Gotham. They may be on the outskirts. I'm not sure where the Kanes live. It says, "Great to meet you, Miss Kane. I've watched your pro tennis matches on TV, but I never expected to be invited to your home. Well, call me Bet." And I'm not sure it's Bette. So let me know if I'm wrong. I swear it would be Bet because Betty, I'm used to that being like Bettie. So let me know if I'm saying that wrong. But we're going to go with Bet because it's just Bet. Actually, though, this is my Aunt Kathy's home. I just wish you were all here under better circumstances. Then I don't suppose your Aunt Kathy has like any snacks. That'd be delicious circumstances. So the whole plot revolves around Kathy Kane has this vast motorcycle collection, which I love right here in the foreground. This looks like the one from Easy Rider. This one looks kind of like something you see in Hogan's Heroes, but I'm not 100% sure about that one. But anyway, she says there's a gang called the Rat Pack that's been terrorizing the whole area. This garage used to be filled with Aunt Kathy's priceless collections of vintage motorcycles until the Rat Pack stole most of them. Now, real quick, I want you guys to look at the artwork on this. And it plot beat, you see the vroom, and here comes the Rat Pack. And I love how it says "Rats all, folks," and done in the old school. Oh God, why is it every time I want to talk to you guys, my brain has a fart? Tex Avery Looney Tune style, which is just absolutely beautiful. Now, this is written by, and if I get these names wrong, again, always feel free to make fun of me down in the comments. Sholly Fisch, drawn by Dario Brizuela, colored by Franco Riesco, and lettered by Saida Temofonte. Now, again, one thing that I will say about this book, and this is what we were getting to until I had a brain fart, is even though this is for a younger audience, at least this feels like a Scooby-Doo cartoon. Like, yeah, I mean, when we read Batwoman in like detective comics for a second, we always see Kate as more dark and noir feeling. But still, I mean, look at the artwork compared to not now, but ongoing book back in the day. I know we've used this before, but it's just how much irks my irk. At least this looks decent, as where this just looks, again, as I've said, webtoon. Anyway, moving on past Gwenpool. And I just love how Scooby and Shaggy immediately, "On reels, or rats on reels. Zoinks, Batman's right. We know exactly what to do. Hide." And then, of course, the trope of, how they never meet a real ghost, which, speaking of which, if you're a Supernatural fan and haven't watched it in a while, I don't remember what season it is, but there's an episode where Cass, Sam, and Dean get sucked into the Scooby-Doo universe, and some effed up shenanigans happen, and it's something else, but it's definitely one to watch. Now, with that said, Fred says, "No panic, guys. All we have to do is pull off their mask, unless they're not wearing masks." And so again, we didn't have to have umpteen pages of dialogue. Yeah, we have a little bit here to kind of set the stage, enter the bad guys, enter the stakes, and then boom. I don't know about children or cowards, but this woman isn't going anywhere. So boom, Batwoman. And I'm assuming it says Scooby and the gang met Batwoman in the Batman and Scooby Doo Mysteries Volume 1, Number 12. So it's been a couple of volumes, but at least she's established. Now, For those of you that may be just be learning about the Batman mythos, or maybe have forgotten over the years, way back Silver Age era. I love how this writer takes the Batman mythos and ties it semi seamlessly into the Scooby Doo mystery. So they're saying Batwoman, but there's another one? And she says, long before I wore this uniform, Kathy Kane was the first Batwoman. There was another Batwoman? Yes, Kathy Kane may be a wealthy heiress, but she never the type to sit around sipping tea and counting her jewels. In her younger days, Kathy was an acrobat and trick motorcycle rider in the circus. And after she inherited her fortune, she left the circus and moved to Gotham. And another thing, before we continue, going into the Silver Age, look, they even made it a point. I mean, obviously the Batman look, though I kind of wish that they would have put the creepy Bob Kane, etched grin on his face. That just would have added to it. But nonetheless, at least they got the old school Mr. Freeze uniform correct. So I appreciate that. And like, it's so hard because I'm sitting here reading this to my kid, right? And there's like, I swear it's either my ADHD or my autism, one of the two. Like, I just wanted to like info dump on him and be like, you don't understand how exciting this is. But yeah, remember he's 6 and I cannot go that far into it. So one of these days, anyway, it says after she inherited her fortune, she was inspired by Batman and she decided what she'd do next. And again, they made it a point to make sure she looked like Kathy Kane. Though if I remember correctly, and I could just be misremembering, let me know. I could have sworn the original Batwoman's mask was red. But at least if it was, at least this kind of has like that old Silver Age style, both Batwoman and Catwoman style going on. For that, I can appreciate it. And then the girl that we were just talking about, they even brought in the first Batgirl. So that's how far back the Silver Age is, guys, is there was someone before Barbara Gordon. And it says, for a while, the dynamic duo became the terrific trio. And when Batwoman took on her own sidekick, Batgirl, the terrific trio became a quality quartet. And again, we went over, I don't remember what volume, but the one where they went back to the original haunted Dr. Jekyll's mansion with Kirk Langstrom. I'll leave a card up here somewhere. But anyway, remember how well Velma was as a detective, and Bruce, Batman, even suggested that Velma become Robin. Listen how smart she is. Velma's listening to all the details, and she goes, everybody all over us talks about the other Batgirl. Wait. First Batgirl. Like Kathy Kane was the first Batwoman. You're an athlete, Bet. You're Kathy Kane's niece. You knew how to contact Batman. You were Batgirl. That's why I retired. I was never good at the whole secret identity thing. And so it's just cool how right there, gang, instead of making them like old, like how some modern comics, like, they'll make Jay Garrick or Alan Scott older looking, and then like for continuity's sake, scale them back. But here, I love how they just make everything seem just a few years ago in essence. From there, the book is a trek on hunting down where the Rat Pack went. And the reveal, what was a little disappointing, I guess you could say it was a little disappointing for me, was the villain. Now, don't get me wrong, we'll get into that in a second, but I will say that I got excited to see 3 generations of Batwomen, even though I know this is Batgirl, all together. And she goes, how does it feel to be back, Batwoman? Not bad, other Batwoman. Dialogue's a little cringy, I will say. I suppose you could say it's like riding a bike. It's hard for a van to keep up with these motorcycles. Now, as they burst in, now remember, Fred said that those rat masks didn't come off. Now, when you think of genetics and bad guys, who's the first villain that usually comes to mind? I'll give you a second. Me, it's always Hugo Strange. But help me out here, because the bad guy turns out to be, spoilers, is a guy named Professor Milo. Is that a Scooby Doo bad guy? Because the name's just not ringing any bells for me. But he goes, who were you expecting? Hugo Strange? So at least they kind of made it a joke there. Tell me, what do you think of my new serum's ability to transform bikers into quite literal lab rats? But that's just the first step. Once I perfect the serum to last more than one day, I shall create a vast rat army. And then from there, the I guess you could say the Bat's abilities ensue or the Bat shenanigans. I know I'm totally going off the Batman 66 thing here, but each character gets their own spotlight. And again, it's really nice to see how Kathy realized, she's like, I already know who you are. She goes, isn't that right, Kate? You know who I am? You used my signature hand flip to catch Professor Milo. I only taught that move to my nieces, Bet and Kane. Bet became Batgirl, and redheaded Kane joined the U.S. Army where she used her military jargon like retcon and taking point, just like you do. And so, what I think when I got excited about this was the whole fact that they kind of turned this into a family affair. Now, I know this is supposed to be like a fun Scooby Doo mystery, and I enjoyed that aspect of it, but the comic origins and like wanting to do a deep dive part of me is just like, holy crap, this is really cool how they just sort of expanded the mythos in one fun, silly Scooby Doo comic. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's just how much I enjoy learning the history of comic books. What do you guys think? If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is to get your action figures and comics and grab this series. And if you've enjoyed this review that was requested by Chris Mack Jr., we really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, as well as hit that fancy little batarang bell. Next, subscribe. That way we can tell about content. You guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments. Now, if you guys also enjoy what I do and you would like to support the channel, I have also left a PayPal tip jar link down in the description. And if not, either way, I still appreciate you all coming by, checking out this fun book, and hanging out with us for a little bit. And with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.